We got this tweet from Nate Silver. This will surprise no one. Nate Silver says, I think an underrated factor in the how can Democrats win back young men debate is the effects of personality, which differ, especially among younger voters, are quite strongly correlated with voting preferences. And then he shows this. Higher self-reported mental health correlates with conservative political views. Let me just slow down and say it in layman's terms. Sanity and conservatism overlap. Insanity and liberalism overlap. That is not my opinion. It's the data presented by the Cooperative Election Study of 2022, get the data, as republished by Nate Silver, which shows the poorer the mental health state, the higher tendency towards liberalism. The stronger the self-reported mental state, the higher reported connection with conservatism.
I mean, it's clear as day.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've talked about these kind of things a lot around here, like the fact that, you know, conservatives tend to be more, I am capable of affecting the world, and the left kind of tends to be more, I'm affected by the world, and I need community and blah 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 in order to take care of myself. Whereas people on the right are just, you know, they're like, I can go out and fix this. I can go do this. And that's just kind of the, you know, these things are fairly obvious, these types of results.
Parents on the left are willing to mutilate their children.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
Yeah.
And they call that healthcare.
I mean, parents on the left let their kids watch Sesame Street.
Also abuse. They're another one of those corporations.
To be fair, you know, Sesame Street did a Pride Month thing. And then I was like, not for my kid. And the left lost their mind.
Oh, did you get a lot of...
So mad.
People were upset about
How
that.
dare you not like gay puppets?
Yeah, and I'm like, my kid's not going to watch it. And to be honest, I don't think my kid should be watching even old school Sesame Street.
Why?
Because I don't want her to identify with a green monster that lives in a garbage can.
There.
Like, I think all that stuff weird. Yeah. I look back at, you know, not absolutely, not to be absolutist, but like most of humans grew up looking at their parents. There was no children's content. It didn't exist. So when you were a baby, you literally just saw your parents doing work. And that's it. Like most of human existence, there's no schoolhouses. There's no dumbing down of anything to try and get a kid to learn it. It was literally just the baby was there with mom. And then when the baby could walk, the baby was walking around and then the baby went to work with dad. We didn't have Sesame Street. We didn't have, you know, we didn't have Dumbo. So, you know, I'm gonna limit all that weird, crazy stuff for my kid. So we're obviously gonna do math and reading and things like that. But I'm gonna stay away from the weird cartoon, psycho, children's content stuff.
Yeah, and the stuff in the last 10 years has made it so every father is a bumbling fool. You know, the kids are rude to their parents. Like we'll let our kids watch if they get to watch. We don't have the TV, but we'll give them like an iPad or something. They can watch stuff that's old, but there's so much stuff lately that is just, it's criminal that they let kids watch it.
We had our first sassing with the baby today.
She
was sassing us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's trying to suck her thumb.
Oh, yeah? He didn't like it?
We're not letting her.
Yeah.
And she started, and then shoving, and then like pulling her arm and then jamming her thumb in her mouth with an angry face.
It's a hard habit to make them quit. Yeah.
Yeah, we thought it was funny. We wouldn't let her do it.
Baby sass.
But that's the thing, too. It's like, I don't want, like, human sass. You know, kids, you got to give them discipline. They got to be taught and things like that. So the last thing I want to do is put my kids in front of Sesame Street or some other weird crackpot stuff that's going to cause weird mental instability as they get older and then turn them into liberals.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and to sort of tie this issue back to one of the earlier stories in terms of immigration is that, you know, if you look at the children's content or the adult entertainment, it is so heavily captured by these leftist ideologies. If you look at the education system, also captured by these leftist ideologies, and those are two of the main avenues of assimilation. I think that's one of the reasons why the left is so big about immigration is because they have a greater influence on the, you know, second generation immigrants than they do of children, you know, of Americans who, you know, don't see a need to assimilate to American culture because they are American culture. So there's less, you know, influence for the left there.
Yeah.
I do like how Nate Silver writes this like really long essay breaking down race and gender and explaining young men when it really is just simple as young guys don't like crazy. You know, they're sitting there saying like we talked about this on Friday with the Culture War episode. I recommend you guys check it out. Rumble.com/Tim Pool or YouTube.com/Timcast. The first thing I did was I pulled up the Star Trek meme. There are 4 lights. And I'll tell you why young guys don't want to be associated with the left or the Democratic Party. It's because, for those that don't know that scene, Captain Picard is captured by the enemy. The enemy general says, tell me, Captain Picard, how many lights do you see? And there's 4. And he goes, 4. And he gets electrocuted. And he says, I believe you're mistaken. There are 5. Now tell me once again. And Picard refuses to give the false answer. The guy was trying to torture him into saying something that was not true, and he wouldn't do it. And I think that's how young guys feel. They keep telling you something that is obviously fake is real, and you have to admit it. Otherwise, pay the penalty. And young guys are just like, nope, not doing it.
I'd rather be exiled by that group.
Well, I mean, yeah, and young men are choosing that.
Yeah.
Right. Like whether it be like the people that are feeling so isolated that they, self-harm or something like that, or the people that are just like, I'm not gonna even involve myself with trying to do normal things like have a girlfriend, have kids, have a normal life. Like that's really affecting the social situation for most young men.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, when we were still in New York, I saw a lot of parents who were raising their kids in very deranged ways. And it happens in small ways too, just in terms of like language they decide. Like there are some of those characters you see on Twitter, they're in real life when they're talking about, gender and their children, all this stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then they get offended if you can feel the offense. Oh, I call my kid a him because he's a him. And
really?
They're like, oh, and they're just like, you can you feel that tension with them because there's a lot of liberals where I was, even though I was outside of the city. And now when I go back to New York, my kids reference the Bible. So now my kids to them are like alt-right.
Oh yeah.
They're like, oh my goodness. Because I want to be my kids to be enthusiastic about the things I'm enthusiastic about. So, they're referencing the Bible. They're referencing my oldest is referencing the Odyssey. He likes Greek mythology and stuff like that. So I'm trying not to give him all this stuff.
Joe Biden's a robot clone.
Fake clouds, all these things. The moon is a little dubious, whatever it is. For sure. These are the things you need to know. Dinosaurs, I'm not sure. You'll know this when you have a kid.
Yeah.
You'll get there.
You have to be skeptical of
This is
everything.
my homeschool program.
All of the stuff that you currently believe, you have to be skeptical of.
And be skeptical of your skepticism.
Okay. There's an important thing that kids need to learn too, which is not the easy thing, but it's philosophy of knowledge. Mm-hmm. That is, if you get asked by anybody, but especially a child, how is it possible that all the dinosaurs died? And you've got to explain it to them. But what can you really do? You can say, here's what I know, what I was told. Yeah. Let's look it up. But then really you're just saying we read it in a book and we believe it.
Yeah. Right. My kids got one book about dinosaurs, just a normal old book. And even in that book, they talk about how a lot of early scientists or archaeologists were putting together bones the wrong way.
Yeah.
So you're already, and I'm like, nice.
Well, I love
Remember that part.
You ever see the image of the elephant? Someone wrote a letter describing an elephant and sent it back to Europe. And then they drew a picture of what they thought. They drew a picture of what it was described as in words, and it looks nothing like an elephant. Actually, let me see if I can find it.
I do want to say, my son knows I'm very skeptical of robots.
Yeah.
But shout out to him, who's always wanted to be a scientist. He told me just the other week, he said, I'm gonna make a company that makes robots for dads who don't like robots.
Here, check it out.
Oh wow.
So they described an elephant, and then sent a letter back to Europe. And then someone drew a picture of what they read, and that's what they saw in there. That's what they thought. Look at the feet.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has like horse-like,
right?
Features.
You can kind of tell where they were going, but nah, you're wrong, dude. Those ears are way off.
Maybe it's just a what?
It's extinct.
Oh,
maybe that was a thing.
Well,
we just don't have it anymore. And the people making the dire wolves are going to bring it back.
When they sent a sample, when they brought a sample of a platypus back to Europe, they thought it was a joke. They thought,
I mean, a platypus really blows your mind when you know.
Like how?
What?
How?
Yeah, how did
it's a duck and beaver at the same time.
And it's both a bird and a mammal at the same time. It's all weird. It's got poison. It
lays eggs.
It's weird.
It secretes milk. What? Yeah, it secretes milk.
Secretes milk.
Yes.
It's a great example of God's humor.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, it was always funny. Remember that video of Kirk Cameron talking about evolution? It was super viral like 15, 20 years ago. And then he was like, if evolution is real, where's this? And he shows a picture of a duck with an alligator head. I remember watching that for the first time and I was just like, the platypus?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's there. That's crazy, right?
Platypus is a crazy little monster.
They're venomous too.
Yeah, I don't understand. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know about the milk secretion.
They're venomous in their rear bills or flippers. There's a spike that's poisonous. Yeah,
venomous.
Venomous.
Oh,
Yeah, venomous.
Yeah, good distinction.
Yeah, it is different. And the baby platypi lick the mom as she secretes milk.
What an anomaly.
It's the weirdest animal.
Why do we have
on Earth.
these things?
they exist. I don't
The
know.
only thing weirder is stuff like at the bottom of the ocean.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe Kirk Cameron was wrong. Is that like he should have pointed that out and said like, come on, clearly evolution is BS. Look at this weird thing.
Yeah, this
How does that make
it
sense?
stopped. This came from nothing, and it's turned into nothing.
Yeah,
Like, what are the evolutionary pressures that created the platypus?
right? That's the man. Because there's got to be a reason for it. There's got to be something that gave an advantage to some kind of mutation.
Could be a leftover from a really old civilization that had technology, and it survived.
Platypi?
Yeah, the platypi are from like an ancient, technologically advanced civilization.
Why technologically?
Because they were doing like bioengineering in their labs.
yes.
You know,
Okay.
in the bottom of their
New Zealand
pyramids.
specifically.
Yeah.
That was, where they were doing all these.
All right.
That's why all the animals are weird.
Yeah.
Yep.
But why would it such an advanced civilization create the platypus? That's
I don't know.
what
We're doing it right now. We're doing it right now. Actually,
Maybe it was solving a problem that they had thousands of years ago.
we need something that's dangerous but also makes milk.
Yeah, some kind of
It
predator.
also looks hilarious. Yeah.
Well, it's also a what's the word? It can perceive electromagnetic fields.
Yeah.
Is any government using this
Electroreception?
for their defense yet?
So can buffalo, right? Because they know to turn. No, maybe I'm thinking of something else. Buffalo.
Magnetoreception.
I think there's quite a few
Yeah.
sea creatures that can.
Yeah, that
I don't
No,
know any
wait.
sense.
other mammals.
That makes sense.
There's a report recently about scientists trying to decode dolphin language because they think it can help them talk to aliens. So they're doing this stuff, and
wonder why.
they're building weird chimeras in labs all around this country.
Magnetoreception.
I just was just listening to a podcast and they were talking about chimeras, two different sets of DNA in the same creature. Creepy.
Dude, there's a guy in China who I think made people chimeras.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure they're doing it here.
CRISPR
too.
technology.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. He
tell
went to
you what.
jail, got out, and then recently said, I think it was recently said, ethics is really holding back this.
Oh yeah,
my
yeah,
department.
yeah. And that's why.
Sweet.
Hopefully.
That's why. That's good. Like sometimes you don't need to be like, hey, we can do it, so let's just go ahead and do it. Human chimeras are definitely
It is
something.
it is electroreception that I was referring to, not magnetoreception.
Interesting.
And it's I forgot what the animal class, echidnas, platypus. What's the name of their echinoderms? Is that what it is? Yeah.
Well,
Serge
don't
with the great
humans
knowledge.
have the capability to detect magnetic fields?
Yes. Well, actually, and if you surgically implant a magnet in your fingertips, you can actually sense. It's crazy. Yeah, there's a big trend like 15 years ago. A bunch of biohackers were getting their fingertips cut open. They would do like their middle finger, and they would implant a neodymium magnet, and then they would stitch it up and seal it, and then you could run your hand along the wall, and you would feel electrical wires, so you knew where the cables were, and they described it as a unique sense, unlike any other sense.
There are people right now implanting Tesla keys in their hands.
What?
And and also getting all the bacteria in their mouth removed, like weird biohacking stuff that's happening in some of these little private cities that the technocracy is building.
Yeah, there's people in South America are injecting themselves with genetic engineering stuff to stop their body from producing fat and only muscle.
Oh,
There's something about it where they were like, when your body switches between muscle and fat production, it causes damage, which causes aging. And if you turn off fat production, your body will maintain muscle production with less aging-related damage. And so their attitude was, we have more than enough food. We don't need our fat the way we used to, so let's just turn it off. And they injected themselves with like this closed loop DNA, which it's not permanent. They as long as they keep injecting it, their body won't produce fat in the same way or something like that.
Wow.
Yup.
That's interesting to
And
me.
they think they're going to live a lot longer because
Well, that's what there's those parabiosis studies that they were doing in Stanford, I think in the 90s, where they were sewing the young mouse to the old mouse, and the old mouse appeared to get younger.
because of the blood.
it is
And then the young mouse
not
was getting
echinoderm.
sick.
Echinoderms are starfishes. Oh. Yeah.
Also weird.
I don't. I tried to Google that, but I couldn't spell it right. So
Yeah.
And then
Not-
people took those parabiosis studies with the mice and then turned it. People like Brian Johnson, not the ACD singer, the biohacker guy, was injecting his son's blood into him. And
monotremes.
Yeah.
Monotremes was the word.
crazy.
Mammals that lay eggs and have electrolocation. That's crazy.
They have electrolocation.
Yup. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.